Okay, hi everyone. Today we're joined by Guy Remond, who is a non-exec director, investor and entrepreneur. And Guy has over 20 years experience in the tech, software and consulting and advisory industries. So we're really happy for you to join us today, Guy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
So you made the point about it taking some months to build up, and it's absolutely true. The key is consistency. And one of the things that having a regular blog does, of course, is make your website far more visible and buoyant. So it's well known that people usually deliberately avoid the ads, i.e. the top 3 search results that Google shows, and they'll go for the top organic result because that has more credibility to it. And one of the ways that you can achieve that is through having regular, unique, high-quality content that relates to the things that people are searching for. And the way that you do that isn't to rewrite your homepage every week, but of course it's to be publishing a blog at least weekly. Although, to be honest, once a fortnight is definitely better than not at all. So it does take a bit of coordinating in terms of just making sure that regular content's going out. And that's why, there are ways to simplify that, and there's support available for that. In terms of website hits, let's just sort of say we've got all of that in place and the blog's going out there. Mine got up to just over 15,000 hits 12 weeks after starting a weekly blog. Your blog at your software company did incredibly well with your weekly bulletin. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the ways you can measure, the impact your blogs are having is clearly through the stats that Google provide on your blog or WordPress or whoever it is that you host the blog with. And every week it was part of the sort of almost like the management information in the end that we used to see how that was doing, because we were investing time, effort and money into this. So it was important that we saw results. And we rose from sort of probably around about 2,000 hits per week, visits I should say, per week, and we were doing 60,000 plus after 2 or 3 years of blogging. And actually, in the end, during the acquisition process, we actually had to look at the blogs, because obviously that was part of the handover, and we ended up, over a 5-year period, we actually ended up doing 700 blogs. So ultimately, that is one of the biggest reasons why we went through 5 years of high growth. It's totally, I can totally attribute a lot of that to that particular decision to build personal brands. That's why I'm so passionate about it. This applies to, I would say, most companies. You can be, I was speaking to an electrician who is beginning to specialize not just in doing the standard electrical kind of rewiring and all that kind of stuff, but is looking at home entertainment and the AV stuff around houses, because that's becoming a thing. It's great. And I was saying, what you need to do is you really need to just do a weekly blog on this stuff, because it's super interesting. There's loads of people out there that would be interested in reading about the ideas that you have around this. You're good at this. Tell people about it and push it out there. And if you do that over time, it will really help your company. There's a huge variety of people. There's not many companies that wouldn't benefit from doing this type of thing.
Actually, in your line of in your industry, particularly when you started your first blog, it wasn't necessarily a common thing for tech companies to be doing, right? And so you weren't put off by the fact that, oh well, no, that's not something that we do. You actually saw that as an opportunity.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we had a philosophy of trying new stuff that came along that caught our eye as a company. Our mantra was always to be ahead of the technology curve. So we weren't afraid to move technologies, which is why we moved to this technology back in, I think, 2010, 2011. That actually, again, was another major contributor to our high growth. We took a technology bet and it worked. The technology became popular, so our little crystal ball kind of worked with the blogs, and we were blogging about our experiences, and it kind of built up a cult following to begin with, and then it built up a serious following as it became more commercially viable, and companies were beginning to take note, and it was the latest technology. But that kind of mantra about the technologies that we specialized in and we sold our services on also ran throughout the company in terms of the tools that we used. So, we used Google Apps when it was really not a massive thing. And Gmail, the commercial version, we adopted. In fact, we got rid of pretty much all our internal servers again back in the early sort of 2010, around that time, and we started to consume all our services over the internet as software as a service. So, you know, project management systems, code repositories, you know, all our communication tools. When messaging became a thing with, you know, with Slack, and before that we had FlowDoc. You know, we adopted all these things, and the blogs was no different. Instead of writing books, we decided that, because that's a big commitment, but a really worthwhile commitment. But we wanted to, in addition to writing books, we wanted to do something more regular and briefer, and blogs fitted the bill. So yes, you're right. We adopted blogs before there was as many people doing it as there are at the moment. That said, for all the reasons I've discussed before, you absolutely still should be looking at blogs, because it's still a relatively new thing in the scheme of things, and it's still very, very effective, way more effective in my opinion than things like email marketing. Although that can have a part in the way that you market your blogs. So you're kind of using email marketing as one of the tools to deliver the stuff you're writing in front of people, along with social media platforms. Yeah,
I completely agree. The blog serves a different function, doesn't it, to email marketing and social media? Yeah. And the blog is like that next step. So through email marketing is kind of something that people can use to kind of nurture certain relationships and provide access to the content that you're producing. Social media keeps you visible on a daily basis. The blog is almost a step closer to you as an individual, or the culture of the company, getting to know the company. You know, at the moment, people are so sold to all of the time, and we don't pick up the phone to withheld numbers or to people we don't know. You know, it's annoying when you get cold called. That sort of thing went out of fashion quite some time ago, and providing content has replaced that, because it empowers the other person, doesn't it? They'll get to know you and they'll decide on their terms when they engage.
It still amazes me that there's lots of companies out there. I would honestly describe them as probably not as forward thinking as there should be companies out there that really consider holding on to their expertise as the way forward, because they're scared to give it away for free.
Yes.
But honestly, you know, those days are gone, and what people are looking for are companies who are prepared to share a certain amount of expertise. Yes, some companies don't realize is that by offering snippets, what you're doing is you're demonstrating expertise, and you're allowing people to begin to look at the ideas that you're putting out there. But they don't have the time, probably, or the expertise to put all the different aspects of what you do together to make it a coherent thing, to be able to do it themselves. And those that do probably won't do it as well as if they hired you to do it. So you should never be scared about putting snippets of information and expertise out there, because people rarely can use that to do the job on their own. And quite frankly, if they try and do that, they're probably not the customers for you anyway. They haven't got that correct mindset, or maybe the finance available they're going to require to hire you and your company. So it almost acts as a filter, and that, you know, that kind of brings me on to another point, actually. And another strategic byproduct from this whole process of building personal brand and putting expert content out there in a variety of different ways, including blogs and podcasts, as we're doing now, is that it acts as a filter. So when you get contacted by companies because they've read your blog, because they've read your book, because they've listened to a podcast, or they've been to a conference that you've talked at, or they've been to a user group that you're involved with, is that, you know, they've already bought into your expertise. So when you go to have a sales meeting, either remotely as we are doing at the moment, or in person as we hope to do in the not too distant future, then you know, that part of the conversation is done. You know, what you're doing then at that point really is just agreeing that you guys can work together, and you're talking more about your company process and your company ethos, and actually the commercial terms then, rather than the actual having to sell to people. That's why you really don't need a sales team, and actually you don't need as many account managers in this whole process, because of the blogs. So even though it's an upfront investment building this profile up over months and then maybe a couple of years, that investment's paid back in spades, because you really don't have to employ certain people that you would do if you didn't do this kind of thing.